We used an example of boxes to demonstrate different type of variables in Python. Let's try to implement a code and there understand what are these different type of variables and how we can implement them inside a code. So now I will open my text editor and write the Python code. This is the Visual Studio Code text editor. I will make a new file inside it. First, let's try to create our Hello World program, which we saw earlier. There we said print, then inside print we said hello world. Let's save this file using Ctrl S. One thing to note is that you can give whatever name you want to this Python file, just that you need to add a .py extension right after the name of a file. So I will give this name as hello and with the extension .py. Hit save, and as you can see now, the plain white text which it was earlier is converted into some color coded text. The text in print and the text in hello world are of different color. This is where the text editor comes in play. The Visual Studio Code is now coloring them differently on the basis of their functionality. This is done to better have a visual meaning of the code. When you have a long codes, then text editor will try to give the part similar color on the basis of their functionalities. This will help a user to read through the code. Now let's try to run this Python script. We can open a terminal inside the Visual Studio Code with the help of two keys, which are Ctrl plus tilde. As you press the Ctrl plus tilde, a terminal will pop up inside the code editor. This terminal is similar to what you have as a PowerShell, or the terminal is similar to what in Mac or Ubuntu they have as a terminal. Now let's run our Python file. As we saw, to run the Python file, we need to execute a command which was python3 then the name of the file, and the name of the file here is hello.py. Let's hit enter and see what the result will be. Here we have got the string hello world. So our Python is working correctly and we are getting the exact result which we wanted. With the help of a Python code, we are printing hello world on the terminal. Let's get back to our study of variables. We'll close this and let's try to understand variables inside this hello.py file. First, let's try to create an integer variable. X equals to 1, which and 1 is an integer. So X is an integer type variable now. Let's create an float type variable. Float numbers have decimal inside them. So maybe 1.2 we can give to Y. Now Y is a float type of variable. Let's give some string and Z equals to hello world. Now Z is a string type of variable. There are two ways to define a string variable. First is directly use a double quote, or the second way is to use a double quote but 3 times. The difference is that you can give multiple lines inside the triple quoted string as a variable. Something like pick z equals to, we use a triple quote, and then we can break this into a bigger string. So now you can give a string on three different lines. Pick z and z both are same string type of variables. And note that in Python, single quote and double quote have the same meaning. So now let's recap. X is an int type of variable. Y is a float type of variable. Z and big Z are a string type of variable. Let's try to print each of them one by one. Print X, then Y, then Z, save it, and let's get back to our terminal, and there we run hello.py file with the help of Python 3 command. Let's hit enter. We have got 1, 1.2, and hello world, which is exactly the values which were saved in these three variables. So you can call these variables according to the name they were given. Let's get back to the slide. Operators, and in operators we have some arithmetic and some logical expression. Operators are nothing but some mathematical expressions like plus, minus, multiply, divide. Let's see how we can do that inside our Python code. In the bracket, we have the symbols of the operator which we will be using inside the Python code to execute the functionality as given in the name. So for addition, we use an add sign. To add two integers, we will put the add operator or the add sign inside between both of them. We can add two strings similarly. We can subtract, multiply, divide on the same way. The floor division, modulus, and power are different mathematical expressions which we'll see in the code further. Let's open our text editor and try to see this in working. Let's create a variable of type int x equals to 1 and another of type float y equals to 1.0. Now let's print x plus y. We'll open the terminal, run the code. As we saw, we got 2.0. This plus here is an operator. It's an arithmetic operator which is doing as we want. It's adding the two numbers. Let's try to subtract these two numbers and run the same file in a terminal again. As expected, we have got 0. Let's try divide. and increase this to 10 and y to 2. Let's run this file again. We got 5. Now the floor division is actually the integer division of the number. Something like if 3 is floor divided by 2, then we get 1 because else is a remainder. Save this and let's try to run this file again. As expected, we got 1. Let's try it on 11. Save it and run this file. As expected, we got 5 and the remainder will be 1. So the floor division gets the integer value. Similarly, let's try to get modulus. The x modulus y is nothing but will give the remainder when we will try to divide 11 with the 2. We get 1, or we can try 11 with 3. Run this file, we get 2. So the floor division gets the integer value of the division and the modulus give us the remainder. And the last one is power. So we can have x equals to be 4 and y equals to be 3. For using a power operator, we need to specify multiplication sign 2 times. This means x raised to power y. Let's save this and print this. We get 64 because 4 cubed is 64. Let's close this and get back to our slides. What we saw earlier were the arithmetic operators. Similarly, we have some logical operators. Putting these signs between two variables will give us some logical output. Logical here means in the Boolean space, where the things can only be true or false. Let's try to run inside our code and see the results. Let's again write x equals to be 2 and y equal to 1. And we will use a greater than sign and a less than sign to see which one is greater and which one is less than. 2, then a greater than sign 1. As we know 2 is greater than 1, we will run this code and we saw the value to be true. This is because 2 was greater than 1. Now let's flip the sign as less than. As we know 2 is not less than 1, so while running this code we will get false, and exactly that's what we get. Similarly, we have an equality operator. We use equal sign 2 times. This is not for assigning the 2 as a 1 value. It will check either the left hand side and the right hand side are equal or not. If they will be equal, the result will be true, and if they are not equal, the result will be false. Let's try to run this. As we know 2 is not equal to 1, so the result is false. Let's try to replace this with 2 and run our file, and now it's true because 2 is equal to 2. Now let's try to change the variable type as a float. So 2 of integer, is it equal to 2 of float? Let's try to run this, and obviously the exact value is same. So 2 in integer is equal to 2 in float. Now we have some greater than sign and less than sign. Let's try them out. So we have is 5 greater than or equal to 2 or not. So we'll print this, and this is true because 5 is greater than 2. Let's replace this 5 as 2. 2 is not greater than 2, but it is equal to 2. That's why we should get true, and we did get true. Now let's try to flip this. Is 2 less than or equals to 2? Yes, it is equals to 2. That's why we got true. Replace this with 5 and run our code. We get false because 5 is not less than 2 nor it is equal to 2. That's why we got this statement as false. Like equality, we have disequality here where we say not, this is the not sign, then equal. So this operator says 5 is not equal to 2, which is true. 5 is not equal to 2. So after running this file, we must get, as you saw, we were getting false. Was because we forgot to save the file. So while writing a code, don't forget to save the file after you try to change it and rerun the program. You might get the different result and be surprised like me. So after saving this file, let's try to run our program and we'll see it is true as expected. 5 is not equal to 2. But let's replace this 2 with 5 and check our result again. It is false because 5 is equal to 5 is equals to 5. So not equal to will give a negative result, which is false. These were our logical operators. We can use them to distinguish whether the quantity is greater or less than, and all the other logical operations can be performed using these operators. These logical operators can also be combined together to create a logical expression. Something like we can have one statement where we are judging if it's true or false, then we can equate them with the help of OR, which will combine the result. This is similar to the OR gate which we study in electronics. And the second is the AND gate which we study in electronics. So if two truths are odd together, the result will be true. And if one of them is false, even then the result will be true. But it's not the same case with AND. AND is like an AND is like an AND gate. Both of the input should be true there. So similarly, we can say here both of the side on the left hand side and the right hand side should be true to make an AND expression true. Let's try to write some code to get a better understanding of OR and AND for combining the logical operators. We'll get back to our file here. We'll delete this and we can say print 5 is less than. Here we can say 5 is less than 2 and 5 is less than 3. Let's start with simple. As we know, both of these statements are false. 5 is not less than 2, 5 is not less than 3. So the AND combination of false and false must be false. Run this and we saw we got a false. Let's try to flip one side. As we know, 5 is greater than 2. So this side of statement on AND on the left hand side is true, while on the right hand side it is still false. So the combination will remain false. As you can see, the combination still remains false. Now flip this side also, and 5 is greater than 2 and 5 is greater than 3. Now on the both side of AND we have true statement. Let's try to print this and we got a true. Now let's replace this AND with OR, which will work as an OR gate now. So on one side, let's create a false statement which says 5 is less than 2, or the second statement says 5 is greater than 3. So one of them is true and the 5 is greater than 3 is true, where the 5 is less than 2 is false. So false or with true is will be true. As you saw the result, it is true because an or, if either one is true, the final result will be true. Let's save this in our Boolean expression like b equals to 10 less than 5. Now print this b. As we saw, the b will be bool and here it will be equals to false as 10 is not less than 5. But we can change this whole expression, taking them inside a parenthesis, and we can say not. And let's try to run this program again. And we got a true. Not acts like a NOT gate, which inverts whatever the Boolean is inside it. So not of false is true. That's why we got true in output.